Dear students, experts, dear listeners, thank you, Nordic Council of Ministers, for this nice opening word and for your support of this conference. It also gives me the opportunity to recall the Nordic Council of Ministers to start using finally the opportunities of e-Estonia, namely the e-residency program, to safely manage your business in the whole Nordic countries. The benefits would be huge, because then your politicians in Nordic countries will be much more understanding what they're talking about when they're talking digital. And this is something which it's difficult to even understand what Estonia has done differently. But the only thing what Estonia has done differently when we are discussing digital is that our government went together with private companies into the search of technological opportunities at the turn of the century. Hence, now and every day, we are not regulating for this private sector this weird technological world which we don't get ourselves. We are regulating for the safety of our public service, for ourselves. When most politicians globally think how to regulate Facebook, and by regulation I don't mean bad things, I mean a safe legal space where people and businesses can all operate. When they think regulating Facebook and all other these things out there, they are regulating aliens. We are creating space, the legal space, for ourselves to provide services to our people. And I believe that the Nordic countries with their volume effect, and Estonia with its quick innovation sector in public sector, we are able to be the model for 21st century and also remain an economically powerful region as a whole for the 21st century if we work well together here. We will continue innovating, we will continue embracing new technologies into public services, because this is our service culture. You will continue questioning and testing what we have been doing and only following when your much more conservative thinking societies trust it fully. But when you have done it, we get the volumes which we need to convince the rest of the world. And this will actually bring us also, and you all, because you will be working in this wonderful environment of Nordic countries, for you these opportunities. And your opportunities, of course, they listed there. To a certain extent, I always feel embarrassed when I stand up and start talking to young people about digital. The reason I feel embarrassed is like nobody invited me in a room when I was 15 and asked me to speak about the world with electricity. I mean, electricity was there, it had always been there. And we didn't have conferences how to live in the world which uses electricity, and very weird. Or cars or whatever, I mean, or planes. I mean, for some reason, for you, all the time we come together, we elderly people, and try to explain to you that you are living in this digital technological world. You have never known the other world, so I feel always a little bit embarrassed that we keep doing it. But I was invited to do it, so I'm here to highlight the importance of technology and digital, and to explain to you what's necessary. I think, if I think about the future, then I think of three things: curiosity, empathy, and the will. One must be very curious to find solutions, and curiosity sparkles from nothing else than knowledge. And Estonia has always emphasized knowledge, education to a certain extent. We enable a very egalitarian education to all Estonian children, as to, of course, all Nordic countries. And we get really good results from schools. Everybody has an opportunity to also go to the best universities in our countries, never mind how rich or poor their parents were or where they grew up. Knowledge is a value in Nordic society, and has always been a special value in Nordic society. But this knowledge provision, you have to radically change. We provided you with the school curriculum, which honestly we did the best we could. We thought we will give you a certain technological information about what is up and coming, and we thought you need to learn maybe even programming skills to participate in technology world, and we were massively wrong. I mean, nowadays it's extremely easy to participate in technology knowing nothing of technology. I mean, you just talk to your Siri or whatever, and it's getting more and more easy. But it doesn't mean that knowledge will lose its importance. Knowledge will not lose its importance. It will simply be available differently and you need to teach children differently, much differently. And I'll give you a very simple example. When you ask, well, I think also today here you will have people who have been in the speakers list who have been speaking in schools around here. I think Ms Linda Liukas was speaking in Narva Estonian school, and those kids there spoke 3 languages. I mean, Estonian, Russian, English. And they spoke English despite the fact that their school textbook thinks that they shouldn't be able to do anything more than form some simple sentences at their age. But they all do speak. It's the first-hand example on how digital has changed the way our children learn. Our children learn totally differently. They learn what they are interested in. And what is the result? The result in the school is a composition of a class where kids have a massively different understanding of the subject matter. It wasn't when I went to school. I mean, we mostly were all at the same level in math or in languages when we were in the grade 5 or grade 7. You aren't. Your kids will be even less. So by definition, you cannot teach based on average knowledge anymore, which means that the school will be totally different. Probably it will be supported teaching. This way that children will learn online. There will be modules where you will test your knowledge based on feedback. You take next module or move back to the previous one if you have not achieved necessary level. Probably if you move back to the previous module, you can choose a little bit different way of doing things in order to gain the knowledge you failed the first time. And the teacher will only supervise. Because otherwise, it's not anymore possible to teach kids in the classes based on the class composition of a certain age of kids. It's absolutely impossible. We lose the attention of children. Yes, teachers have been blaming computers and digital devices quite long for the attention span shortening of the kids. And there might be some truth in it. But the fact is that the bigger reason, in my mind at least, probably is that the kids simply know already what teachers are teaching them, or don't think it is important for them to know this, because they learn different things from different sources. So the school system, to provide for the curiosity of children, their natural curiosity to learn, will radically have to shift in the coming 10, 15, 20 years. And the question may be, will there be teachers at all? Well, I'm quite sure that the educational opportunities for African poor regions will also sometimes be greatly enhanced, that there will be no teachers at all, but there will be a mobile connection instead. But in our developed world, we have the luxury of teachers. And in this environment, we still need teachers, and maybe we need them even more than we did before. And the reason is that while we learn everything without much human interaction, technically, we need to pay special attention to gain social skills. What we see will happen in the next generations is this: all the boring tasks will be done by something else. Well, machines, narrow AI, robots, whatever. There may be things I cannot imagine today. Who will do this boring stuff for which our parents and some people still from 9 to 5 morph into machines to do these works? You will never morph into a machine. What will then be left for you? Wonderful thing. You will all get the chance to use the single competitive advantage what you have over the computers and machines. This is, you will be compassionate human beings. You will specialize in being compassionate human beings, interacting with each other. And this for me is wonderful to know that even if I don't know what's the technological base you will be using in 20 years' time, 30 years' time, or your children will be using, on any technological base, liberal democratic values, human rights, these things will be taught in an age-adapted way in our school system. This is the only way you can be sure that you will be able to outcompete all kinds of machinery and technology. They will never be compassionate human beings. This will be our domain, and you will all operate, and you will all make living out of being a compassionate human being. It's already happening. If you think of the online jobs, it's very old-fashioned to think that technology takes jobs away. It doesn't. It creates huge amount of new jobs, which are mostly related to what? If you think of the biggest, at least in money terms, innovations in the last 20 years, including Skype, for example, Estonian innovation, what do these innovations allow you to do? I mean, they're about talking, they're about chatting, they're about seeing each other's faces 1,000 kilometers away. These things make money. Ability to communicate, ability to talk. It's not like you have to be a computer specialist. I mean, these guys, of course, make good money as well by creating us the infrastructure. But everything what is inside the tube, this is something which actually shows that you can now make money from simply talking to people. Traveling YouTuber was not a job, and many among us still refuse to call it a job, yet it creates money. Obviously, it's a job. And most jobs will be this way. There will also be, of course, intermediate phases where you simply can use technology to do the old-fashioned jobs like bookkeeping, as long as this is not all done by a narrow AI. Bookkeeping is very boring. I have a degree in it, therefore I know. And I'm quite sure narrow AI will soon do all bookkeeping and financial resources allocation for all of us. And what will be finance, we don't know neither. But meanwhile, you can imagine that you will work from Finland, for example, for some companies who are in France, in Estonia, in Australia, bookkeeping for them if you know the legal code. So that will be the intermediate phase where the old jobs survive in internet and they are enhanced and your opportunities are enhanced. And they are enhanced in this way that you can allow yourself to be more narrowly specialized because you can sell your skills not in your own village only or town. You can sell your skills globally. So you can be narrowly specialized and you can be more independent because you don't have to gather into enterprises anymore to create high added value because you can sell what you know to do globally. This tendency we already see. Much more people are nowadays independently working. I now come to the empathy. We're all Europeans and we value our European social models. We value them highly. And if I think of this new world, then you will work in maybe 5 different countries at the same time for 10 different companies. The question is, will you have a safe social dock somewhere? Will it be where you live? But where will you live? In the winter, because your job is geography neutral, you may choose to live at the Mediterranean if you hate snow. I love snow, I may choose to live in Norway. I mean, we don't know, what the choice is, but the choice is free for you to do. So this old thing which we had in 20th century, which created our social systems in Europe, that there were big companies where everybody gathered and worked, and the tax river fell into the coffers of the government. And then we used all this largesse to offer you all, wonderful social services in Europe. This is dead. It's like, Alice in Wonderland. The cat has already left, the industrial area has already left. The green is lingering on. But sorry, on this side of the hole, of the rabbit hole, the green will soon be gone. What to do? We haven't managed to create the solution. You are voting with your legs, mostly. People who are better off and make better money from working digital, they simply opt out. They opt back in when they fall ill or want their children to go to school somewhere. But we have lost a good part of their, earned money, which we could have taxed. Only the pension system penalizes you for opting back in. No other system does. And I don't blame you for it at all, frankly speaking. Instead, what we should do, and if we don't manage, then you should do when you run for political jobs, some of you will, I'm quite sure, is to adapt our world so that instead of having this tax river falling in, we will fly from flower to flower and gather the taxes and try still to offer the social services. Because I think, as Europeans, we are not ready to give up on the publicly provided social services or redistribution of services in wide sense of the word, meaning also, for example, this wonderful education what we have. So we have to have a different agreement between people and governments. You work wherever you want, whenever you want. It doesn't have to be that you have to work a certain number of hours or earn a certain amount of money like nowadays. And we will make an agreement based on which you will get a certain package from a government. This package, by the way, has to work globally. Estonia has got part of it already. Estonian citizen does not stop being a voting and participating Estonian citizen when they leave Estonia. You can vote online. You can still use public services online. You can still, be part of Estonian society while you are away. I believe we should also offer this digital school to Estonian kids working and all the parents working freely in the European Union, living elsewhere. I hope we will achieve that as well. This demonstrates that we are already on the way of accepting that our citizens are not at home. They're global. They're everywhere. And we accept the responsibility for them still. And we need to break all the old OECD rules and agreements in order to fit for this new world. Everybody will choose a safe dock, which will be their service provider, pay this safe dock the taxes, and use these services globally. I hope it will be based on your cultural space. So Estonians will use Estonia, Finns will use Finland, etc. There will be, of course, always people for whom this is less important, and they will simply use what is best. Which is the argument why I think if we move quickly in the Nordic countries, we will get more and more of taxpayers who will use our countries as the social dock which we need. Because this way we will be able to remain empathic, compassionate human beings in society as a whole, still providing education and opportunities to our people. Now, too often I hear that we cannot do it. Frankly speaking, that's why I think the third important part of my speech will be will. Yes, we can do it. We can, of course, remain 5 years in discussions about how to tax Starbucks in Europe. Or we can really admit that the industrial area is simply over. It's gone. People will never again work from 9 to 5. They'll have much more flexibility in choosing their working hours, working places, and quickly adapt before we lose too many people from our social systems, because then we'll be very much, down to relying on privately provided services. And the precarious people will lose out. And we don't want in Nordic countries anyone or anybody to lose out. We want them to participate. This is very important for us. So for us all to think together how we can do this new society. You notice probably that I'm not talking about technology. That's not my job. My job is societies and thinking how this technology changes our societies. And there is one way of seeing everything as a danger and as a risk, and there is the other way and opportunity is seeing everything as an opportunity. And the more and more we use this technology as an opportunity, as you all are anyway doing, the more and more we can actually create social benefits for our societies. We have been quite reluctant in public sectors in Europe to first understand that we cannot ignore what is going on. We have been very slow also in public sector in starting to benefit from it. And Estonia, during our EU Council presidency, made huge efforts to achieve at least one thing, that the governments in Europe accept the responsibility in technological age. Yes, for some reason which Estonians don't get, most people in Europe accept that their governments are lagging behind in the service provision quality. Because, private companies nowadays cannot afford to operate on paper and capture their client base by opening offices here and there. They're all online. For some reason, governments are hoping that people will continue accepting that they have to go to offices and with papers and everything. I'm sorry, this way governments are making themselves obsolete. And this was something which we were trying to put through during our council presidency. Your people are in the internet. Your businesses are in the internet. Your civil society happens in the internet. That they know because everybody needs votes, of course, but anyway. But you have a responsibility and obligation towards your people in this new technology world. If we think of the street space, Can we imagine the world, or at least Europe, without identification means? Passport? Cannot. We have our analog passport. So why on earth nowadays, when most transactions and interactions have a technology part, internet part to it, think that people don't need the same passport provided safety in this new technology world? Frankly speaking, it's government's obligation to keep their people safe everywhere where they go. Tech space is as common as is street space. We have never felt as governments that we can step aside from the street space and say, this, guys, this is dangerous, let's all go somewhere else. I mean, come on. We police the street space. We allow people to identify each other so they know with whom they're dealing with. Then we can check each other's backgrounds and etc. in analog world. Technological world is exactly the same, and I believe we managed to convince during our council presidency the rest of the governments that your people and businesses are there. It's now for you to provide them the opportunity to stay safe. I like to call it cyber hygiene, because it's like soap and water, running water preferably, keeps you safe from bacteria. The digital identity, the passport in internet world, is the soap and running water of cyber hygiene. You cannot get away from that. You cannot tell people that stay safe in internet unless they have two means to stay safe in internet. And that's where the digital ID comes in. You were shown the ID card. I found it very old-fashioned. I mean, mobile ID is much more comfortable to use, and smart ID is much less dependent of any physical element. So there are several options how governments can provide their citizens with digital identities and passports. And therefore, I find it extremely unfair when parliaments call Facebooks and others, Amazons, to testify and say, mea culpa, we didn't keep your citizens safe in internet. Sorry, no private company can create an identikit which will have the power of legal space behind it. So yes, people of developed world who have been left alone by their governments in digital sphere have to rely on Facebook and Amazon identikit. I rely as well if I want to buy from Amazon. I've been talking to Amazon leadership that they could somehow create an ecosystem which involves Estonian digital ID. Let's see where it goes. But this is the only thing which private companies can do, because they don't have the power of law behind them to guarantee that these identities are not false. We politicians, we have this power of law, because this doesn't happen because we have the technology. It happens because we create legal space for this technology to function. Many of you have all kinds of cards which have exactly the same chip on it like ID card has. They open doors, they, give access to your bank accounts, etc. But what they do lack is this legal space behind it, guaranteeing that if somebody presents this identity, they are who they claim they are. In Estonia, we guarantee this, because everybody has their ID, they keep it safe, and therefore the state takes responsibility that if I sign in, and let's say you sign back in with your, I hope you already have the residency card, we are really who we claim we are. In principle, of course, and this is what the argument we hear daily is, but it's not safe, you may lose it. Then I say, yes, nothing. Global is totally safe. You are not guaranteed safety if you have low level of cyber hygiene and you vote 2 of your PIN codes on the card, and everybody can therefore, mimic you in internet. On the other hand, it doesn't have to be absolutely safe. The only thing which we have to demonstrate is that it is safer than analog. And this is easy to do. If you go to the notary office with a passport which is stolen, maybe even falsified, you have changed the picture in it, nobody asks you any PIN codes to prove that this is your passport. If you find somebody's ID card on the street, and at least the codes are not written on it, you cannot use it. So yes, it's not absolutely safe. For that you need to have, cyber hygiene. You don't write your PIN codes with a marker on that card. I haven't seen any Estonian do that, I have to say. Also, if you did, you cannot use it as a passport to travel, and we use it as a travel card, so probably that's why nobody has been doing it. But anyway, it's hygienic cyber-wise too. The analog passport is not safe. Same, of course, applies for digitally provided services. Many people ask that, well, is then e-voting safe? I say, yes, we have no incidents. People have tried to crack into the system and hack into the system, and they have not managed. But I mean, I cannot claim something is 200% safe. Nothing ever is. On the other hand, if I compare that, for example, it's widely accepted that you vote by putting your ballot in envelope and sending it to the vote counting office. This is acceptable safety level. Now think, I mean, nobody knows whether you were alone when you fulfilled this ballot or you had somebody influencing you. It goes into the envelope, which then goes somewhere, and you never receive any feedback whether it was counted or not. We remember a couple of years ago in one European country, the whole election of president had to be rerun because the envelopes melted. I can tell you, I didn't have to convince that president why e-voting is safer. I mean, in e-voting, you log in, you vote, you get feedback email, the connection between your vote, what you cast is not visible to anybody. Nobody, by the way, knows that you went into the system when you use your card and identify yourself for voting, because there are hundreds of other services available and it all works through the same X-road. So it's extremely hard even to deduct that somebody went voting, for example. And how to guarantee that you were not influenced by anybody while you were voting? Very simple, you can re-vote. So you can sell your voice to everybody, I mean, during the several days while you are voting. Therefore, it becomes pointless to buy it. See, it's simply safer than paper ballot. Nothing's absolutely safe. I mean, our planet is totally not absolutely safe, as we know. I mean, climate change is happening. So I cannot say that, I mean, there will be never accidents in digital sphere. Actually, we've had quite serious ones. Once we had to shut off Estonian digital environment globally because we were under attack. And then we didn't. And can you imagine, even today, we still do not have an international legal space which will make sure that if I, as a digital government, come under outside threat of a cyber attack, where can I go and complain? I mean, it's definitely well affecting my sovereignty. Where can I go and complain? Is it Security Council in UN? Not yet. We hope it will become like that when Estonia will be member there, and we want to have influence in that. I have nowhere to complain. 11 years after Estonia came under the first attack on our sovereignty via cyberspace. Therefore, this will also be your responsibility to internationally agree that our analog norms are applicable also in the cyberspace. I come and keep coming back to the legal space. Tech innovation happens anyway. What is government's job in tech innovation is exactly this: recognize and regulate positively so that technology can be used, preferably so that governments themselves use the technology as well, because it simply gives you knowledge how this thing works, and you are just smarter in regulating as well. This, in Europe, we haven't learned how to develop our society to be technology ready, independent of what technology we are exactly talking about. In Estonia, we are now thinking about how to regulate for artificial intelligence. We know it doesn't exist, and well, I don't know, Jaan Tallinn, the creator of Skype, tells me that we have a 50-50 chance that by 2050 we will have a true singular artificial intelligence. I doubt him, and I doubt him because when I graduated from university in 1992 with a degree in genetic engineering, we thought we will clone a dog by year 2000 and a human being by 2020. Well, we cannot make a proper virus yet. We can make a bad virus only. So I don't necessarily believe that AI will be here by the half century. But what I do believe is that if we today regulate for artificial intelligence, both nationally and globally, we will have all the lower levels of automation and autonomous systems, automatic and autonomous systems regulated and covered as well. And then we don't have to re-regulate all the time. Estonia is discussing, and I'm quite sure that by next summer we will have something in the pipeline in the parliament. And why I'm so sure? It's because Estonian people are now looking what is going on in technology sphere, and they're seeing that artificial intelligence, intelligent things in a narrow sense of the world are coming on the market. And since they are so used that the government has to be the best service provider, their expectations are high that the government will use these things. Then they now ask, when are you going to use this? A simple thing. If you have algorithms which are thinking together and coming to a conclusion about a human being, to do this human being something, can it be done within the context of current legal space which you have in this country? No, it cannot. We need to regulate for this situation where different algorithms come together, decide something and do something to a human being. Our citizens want it from us. They probably don't want us to gather information about them not being working or gainfully employed, being an unemployed and a young person doing nothing, and then coming and offering them help. Then they will have this question very quickly that why did you nose around and think about, use my data without my consent? This we cannot do. But they very much want that if I have the right to a payment, for example, if you have a baby, in Estonia we have universal child support, you will have the right to get a payment. And people asking, why do I have to apply? I don't have to apply. You know my bank account because I pay your taxes. You know I have the baby. Just pay me out. Our citizens are demanding that our services become proactive. See, for that you need to again think how to do it and enlarge this legal space. Make a law which will allow you to use this technology. And systems which we are now talking about, they are algorithms which exist in a digital world. They not walk around among us. But there will be also things walking. There are these delivery robots, aren't there? Well, Estonian traffic code can regulate for an accident between a car and a delivery robot. But it would be very tiresome if we had to continue going through each and every law and each and every technology cycle adapting our law. It's much better to go straight to the end, accept that artificial intelligence is an entity, and regulate for it horizontally, so that all our legal space accepts that there are people in our society and artificial intelligence in our society. This is what we need to do. Why we need to also globally control the evolvement of the artificial intelligence? Well, we all know that artificial intelligence can also be dangerous in many ways. And we want to know if somebody is coming close to creating it. I think we need a system how we will have internationally the right to go and monitor if we notice a development which kind of seems to indicate that AI is evolving somewhere. Like we notice there is a black hole where a lot of energy goes down because, well, according to our current understanding, true AI will be extremely energy consuming. So a certain level of energy consumption, unexplainable, could actually trigger a monitoring mission. We should have these kind of laws in space, in our legal space, because first of all, we don't know whether it will be even a government who will create something like this. It may be somebody else. I think it will be if it happens somebody else. But we need to be ready to know and be able to monitor and follow what is going on. Because otherwise, indeed, we cannot be sure that there will not be a machine which will make our world into paper clips. This is the old worry about AI, that it will, for some reason we don't understand, make everything into paper clips. We must be ready to guard against these situations. And it's actually high time we start talking about these things, because if we don't, we are too late. When this thing is already there, making the world into paper clips, we've lost. So we have to react right now. On the other hand, I'm not too worried about AI making our world into paper clips, because you don't need AI to make the world into paper clips. We are currently doing it ourselves. And here I refer to Bitcoin. I'm sorry to say, money cannot be created democratically. If everybody creates money, we don't understand what's the underlying economy of this thing. Yet many people globally believe that Bitcoin is describing some sort of economy. What can you buy with Bitcoin? I heard a place in Tim Draper's University, all costs, all inclusive. Somewhere you can buy a hamburger probably with Bitcoin, but not many places. So what's the volume of the economy which Bitcoin is reflecting? There's billions out of it. There isn't such an economy. And that actually brings me to the conclusion. If we are not careful, we don't even need AI to make our world into paperclips. We are extremely good at using real environmental resources because mining Bitcoin takes environmental resources. And we are making our world into paperclips ourselves using this wonderful technology. Thank you for listening, and have a nice day discussing all these many facets of the new digital world.